Hey everyone, excited to be back for this week's edition of Frequently Asked Questions for Commercial Real Estate. In today's video, what I want to do is answer a question that I had to answer recently as part of a listing presentation. And this is a question also that has come up many times in discussions with different agents regarding their time investment in particular transactions. And that is, how do you determine your leverage within a negotiation process? And then what are some of the ways that you can use that leverage to then advocate for the best possible deal for your clients? Now, before I end this video, I'd greatly appreciate if you can like and subscribe to this channel. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm and ensures more and more people can hear this message and learn about the many facets of commercial real estate. So now you've done that, go and like and subscribe below. Let's go ahead and dive into this episode. All right. So the question is, how do you properly understand leverage in negotiation? And so oftentimes as agents, we have to be able to present a story to the other side, whether that's the listing agent or maybe directly to the owner, regarding the financial wherewithal and the ability for our particular client to be able to bring the transaction to the finish line. So, in order to do that, you really have to truly understand the global picture of what you're working with. So, in this example, let's say that you are working with a startup client. Maybe they've been operating in the vertical that they're wanting to branch out into for quite some time. Maybe they're an attorney. They've been practicing law in that space for 20 plus years, and now they have a few attorneys that want to get together and start up their own business. So, in that instance, you have to get a true understanding of the financial and other factors that are at play when you're trying to pursue an opportunity, whether that's on the leasing or buying side. So typically, what I have my clients do is to work on providing me with either a personal financial statement to highlight where they're at financially, and also provide me with tax returns and bank statements that would showcase their ability to either A, if it's a lease, being able to fund any expenses pertaining to building out of the space, or being able to fund at least the initial period of them being able to occupy the space. Because again, this is all the information you're going to have to present to a landlord to be able to get them comfortable with the idea of that tenant occupying the space. On the banking side, for example, if you're looking to buy commercial real estate, they're going to ask for this information anyway. So if they could prepare this ahead of time before approaching a lender, it's only going to help you through the process as you start seeking out financing to acquire these types of properties. So that's number one, is to get a clear picture of the outlook of the business. This would include asking for financials. I also, if it's a startup, request a business plan. And if they don't have one, I put them in contact with a local resource to help them create a business plan, because that is something that a landlord will likely want to review to make sure that the business is going to be viable on site. So those are some of the things you need to first present or to collect, so that you can then make the determination about the viability of that tenant or buyer going forward. So once you have a clear perspective and you've determined that they're able to potentially execute on a transaction, that's when you need to go through the process of identifying sites for these individuals. Now, assessing property is also a great way to be able to use the leverage that you ultimately are trying to establish in a transaction. And so maybe you're looking at properties that have a unique orientation, right? The layout's kind of odd, or maybe that they're not quite in the location that would be optimal for a lot of users, but for your particular user, it's a perfect site, right? That maybe there's a low to middle income area that a lot of retailers aren't attracted to, but maybe the retailer that you're working with is a type of tenant that would love to be in those types of locations. You got to use some of this to your advantage when it comes to the negotiation process. And along with that, another determining factor as well is, how long has the property been sitting? There's a lot of times where the property sits because of economic factors, like in our current environment, the transaction volume as a whole, regardless of whether a property is attractive or not, it's definitely dropped off significantly. So it may just be partly economic factors, or maybe it's other factors at play as well. Maybe the price is too high, or maybe there's unreasonable expectations on the side of the landlord. So all these factors come at play to be able to assess the property and determine whether or not there may be a deal to be had in this particular instance. So once you've narrowed down your focus and identified sites that your client wants to make a play at, and you think you have some negotiation wiggle room, that's when you start the process of interacting with either the listing agent or the owner and submit a proposal. Now, there's various ways that you can submit a proposal. You know, if it's a lease, for example, I try to advocate for my clients to get some form of free rent on the front end. That helps them get into the space, maybe orient the space to be better suited to their needs, and then ultimately they can hit the ground running quickly so that they can start generating revenue on site before they have to make any capital outlays in the form of rental payments or insurance payments, et cetera. There's also ways that you can advocate for tenant improvement allowances. In particular, if your tenant is willing to advocate or to stick around a longer period of time, there's oftentimes landlords that are willing to commit some capital to be able to help them build out the space, thus securing that tenancy long term. Along with that, if your client is looking to occupy the space and there's additional space that maybe they're not ready to occupy as of yet, maybe it's a multi-tenant center, they're taking 5,000 square feet and there's a center of 20,000 square feet, you can advocate for right of first refusal, meaning that if in fact another space opens up in the center, they have to come to your tenant first before they take it out to the broader marketplace. And it just gives your tenant the right to be able to expand within their existing location as opposed to having to relocate if their business is doing great and they need more space. So it just kind of helps provide flexibility. And then finally, on the repairs and maintenance obligations, those are definitely items that you can negotiate on. And I often do in these types of situations because those are the ones that could potentially have significant impact on your client. So advocating for major mechanicals to be waived or to be occupied or to be dealt with primarily by the landlord could be of value. And then obviously on the purchase side, you got to make sure that the price is reasonable based on what the marketplace is dictating. So if a client or a listing is well overpriced, and you have interactions with the listing agent and the owner, and you determine that the transaction, there's not a transaction to be had because the landlord or the owner is still out of line in their expectations, well, that's something you've got to relay to your client, and maybe that's not a good opportunity. But the more and more you make offers on these types of opportunities that have been sitting around for a while, maybe the location is not quite where it needs to be, but for your client, it could be best. Those are the ways that you could be able to modify and potentially secure great deals. And in this environment where things are starting to sit longer, this is a great time to be able to leverage or establish a leverage in a transaction and hopefully get more opportunities coming your way. And then finally, anytime you're involved in these types of negotiations, you want to make sure that you get a commercial real estate attorney involved, in particular when you start dealing with contracts on the leasing side and also on the purchase side. Because again, you just want to make sure that you advocate and protect your client to the best of your ability. And you yourself, unless you're licensed to be an attorney as a commercial real estate broker, are not able to dictate or write anything that would be legally interpreted. So hopefully you gain some value from this video. Really what the purpose of this video was to kind of clarify the fact that leverage is established based on the story that you're able to tell to the other party. So that's why getting the information available to you quickly so that you can formulate a plan of attack that you can then take to a landlord or an owner or whoever else is the best way to be able to approach the process. And if you do that and you make sure your clients understand the importance of that, you're going to be much better suited to be able to secure a space or a property that best fits their needs. So hopefully you gain some value for this video. I really appreciate all the support we've had on this channel. Please like and subscribe. It makes a big impact on our ability to reach a broader audience. If you yourself are looking to buy, sell, or lease commercial property here in Louisville, please give me a call. My name is Raphael. Collazo, and I'm a commercial real estate agent in town. I'd be happy to help you with your search. My number is 502-536-7315, or you can reach me via email at raphael@crescentigroup.com. Thanks again so much for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time.